Welcome to another episode of the Business Everyday Show. Here in the studio, I am super excited. Today, we have a couple. First time, we have Mr. Logan and Miss Brit here in the studio today, and we're going to be talking about a whole variety of different businesses and structures and the journey. And so I'm just going to turn it over to you guys and say, welcome to the show. And who are you people and what do you do?
Let's get it. Thanks for inviting us, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, really appreciate you having us. We're super excited.
Yeah.
This is my first podcast, not your first podcast.
All right.
Yeah, love being able to share. So we are entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And as well as believers. And
Amen.
We are just stoked to be here. I mean, I guess I'm a real estate agent.
Okay.
Primarily. Also, I got into that to be an investor. So also an investor.
Got it.
And then am running my business. I just started a team for real estate.
Okay.
And that's been great. So, but yeah, that's primarily what I'm focused on.
Okay. So we got real estate and
for sure.
real estate investing. And Brett, what is your side of things?
I am focused on digital marketing. So right now I sell, promote, create digital products.
Mhm.
So courses, ebooks, PDFs, anything that can be sold online. I also have an e-commerce background, so I do a little bit of
Okay.
that as well. So both physical and digital products, just learning how to sell those and market those on the internet.
So cool. I am truly excited about the conversation today. Just there's so many different avenues in which it can go. And I mean, the sneak peek ahead is that Logan and I have done a couple of deals together personally. We've known each other for years. And so this feels close to home in regards to having a conversation that we've just had so many times over the last few years.
Yeah.
But I'm actually going to start with your wife and say, Britt, how did you get started in digital marketing? Did you go to school for this? Did you starting in high school and just go like, I just dream so deeply about getting into the internet space and selling things and promoting? Like, how did you get to the digital marketing space?
Absolutely not. When I was in high school, they didn't even have Instagram
Mhm.
yet. I moved to Nashville to do music,
Everyone
and
does.
everyone does. I majored in songwriting and music business. I
Okay.
was determined to be a singer. I grew up playing piano and did theater. So any kind of internet job was not on the radar whatsoever. And there's a long list of jobs that I've had in between music as a career
Mhm.
to what I'm doing now. But essentially, how I wound up here is I was working for a digital publishing company. So I was doing
Got
a
it.
little bit of social media type work
Okay.
at the time. And I was working remotely. So I really liked the remote work. And I knew I've always wanted to have a business. I've done a lot of side things. I had my insurance agent's license at one point. I
Yep.
was doing a little bit of finance and just trying to, like, what is my thing? I just never felt like I had that passion really figured out
Mhm.
once, music wasn't really the dream anymore. And I saw someone on Facebook, I think that I used to be friends with, doing dropshipping and selling products. And I was like, wow, that is just
Okay.
so fascinating
Before
to
it
me.
became all the rage on YouTube or in the midst of it?
Oh, in the midst of it.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't even involved in that world. I couldn't have told you one single YouTube video. I wasn't even researching it at the time. I was
gotcha.
like, that is so cool. I knew that I wanted to have my own business, and I knew that my long-term goals involved being a stay-at-home mom, having a family, but also having a business. And I I have never wanted to do like the status quo 9 to 5, just never appealed to me. I mean, I've done dog walking and Christmas light hanging and nannying and basically every odd job imaginable.
Mhm.
So when Logan and I got married, I was in this digital publishing job, which I knew for a variety of reasons wasn't going to be the end job. There was a
Right.
lot of things that kind of was already making me considering leaving.
Okay.
And Logan was like, why don't you just do it? Like, you've been talking about this for years and you're just being scared at this point, and we should just trust God and you should quit and just go all in on what you actually want to do, even if you don't have it totally figured out yet. And I was like, that sounds so scary.
You can get so far with a Nike swoosh, just do it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I mean, I love this idea of e-commerce, but I don't even have a business yet.
Mhm.
And that just sounds so scary to quit and leave. And we prayed about it a lot and sought a lot of counsel. And I just finally put on my big girl pants and did it one day. And I quit. That was back in
October of 2022.
Yeah, October of
It's been
2022.
a
So we're
couple of
coming
years.
up on 2 years now of my entrepreneurship anniversary.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I ended up here. And it's just been putting one foot in front of the other and
Mhm.
pivoting and constantly reevaluating what I'm enjoying, what's profitable, what's working, what isn't working,
Right.
and kind of following that.
What's interesting to me in your story, because it's so common at least in the people that I've talked to in regards to entrepreneurship. I think there's a fake narrative in culture that says you have to decide what you want to do and then you just go and do it. And that is not your story, nor do I think it's most people's stories. It's, I do this and then that didn't really work. And then I did this and that didn't really work. But I learned that I liked that part. And then I did another thing and I liked that part. And I look at it in this door and keys imagery where you go in and you have a whole, ring of keys, and then you try it on different doors, and finally one opens, and then there's another door, and you try a different key, and then it opens again. And eventually you're going to get into the room that you're hoping to get into. But if you don't actually open doors and try things, you're never going to get in. And that's
So good.
really interesting for me to hear again that no, you've been set out on the entrepreneurial journey way longer than 2 years, because you were doing all these different side things, and then you were experimenting in this and experimenting in that. To me, that's the entrepreneurial journey. Whether or not you're full-time or not, that's a different conversation. But
Yeah.
that's been a heart position for a long time. And that's cool and encouraging to see.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So that's awesome. I wanted to bounce off something
Let's bounce.
with what Britt said, because we are believers, as
Yeah.
you've noticed and as we've mentioned, and like you just can't help following your dreams and trying to obey where God's leading without leaving, basically you can't just go for it if you don't have like someone guiding you. And
Yeah.
I think that's the ultimate hope is God. It's not me finally getting my dreams. Like, he is the dream. He is the ultimate fulfillment. And it was cool because like I feel like God allowed me to go before Britt as an entrepreneur, which I'll share some of the story,
Yeah.
but like, and fail and be encouraged and succeed. And then that like was able to and show her a vision of what could be. And I was able to speak like encouragement and life and just like truth into her based on what I literally just experienced, because my journey was started in 2020, as far
Such
as
a great year to
yeah.
start anything.
I know, right? Such a good year.
Shut down. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah, literally got my license March of 2020. And then end of the world.
So tell me about that.
Yeah.
What brought you to getting your real estate license? I mean, and in a similar light to asking Britt of, did you always set out to become a real estate agent? Are both your parents real estate agents? Is that you born and bred, or was your journey a lot more finessed in, I tried this, and finally a new vision appeared to me, and then I pursued it?
Yeah, it's like funny looking back, because like real estate is so obvious to me,
Mm-hmm.
but I never really knew about it until like my mid-20s.
Got it.
Like kind of knew about it, like renting and stuff, because my landlord in college, who was also like my pastor or whatever for the college ministry I was at.
Okay.
And we were renting from him, and I loved like renting at a house, and I loved being able to have roommates.
Yeah.
And not staying on campus, but yeah, I didn't really know about real estate until I started reading this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Such a good book.
It was like
Robert Kiyosaki, man.
This is pretty much every real estate investor and anyone who gets into real estate. 99%, it seems like, oh, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
It's a starting point. It's the easy to read, break the ice kind of book where it's just like, what? There's something out there that's I didn't even know about. Like
totally. I mean,
passive income. What's
assets versus liabilities, and then you working for money or getting your money to work for you.
Yeah.
The basic summary. And it's like, whoa, I never thought about it that way. The thing was, though, I feel like for me, and probably for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's kind of ingrained, but you don't really realize it. Especially, who make the best entrepreneurs is creatives, I feel like, because they can see what's not there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you bring in the passion, and then you bring in the discipline. But yeah, for me, like growing up, it was like very passionate, very creative person. And I was playing football and sports and like doing music, but like didn't really know what I wanted to do. And there is that stigma that we said kind of in the beginning of like, oh, if you could just figure out what you want to do,
find your passion.
And then like, oh, just go do it. And then like, you better figure out your career. And I was just like, man, like I knew that I did not want to be stuck behind like a desk somewhere. But I also wanted to experience stuff. So like when I graduated MTSU, so I went to MTSU, majored in music business.
Which is such a Nashvilleian.
Right? Yeah. From Georgia, but lived in Tennessee since 2011. And then, but I minored in entrepreneurship. So, so my dad, as far as background, my dad owns a small business. Well, he just retired and they just sold it.
Awesome.
Which is awesome. But that was like selling promotional products, business to business type deal. And he would always, so that was like ingrained in me as far as like seeing him be entrepreneurial.
You had exposure.
Totally.
Right.
And he always would say this, he would be like, find a job where you can make money in your sleep. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. But also like, wait, what does that mean? Like, but it means that like, you are stuff is being sold on your behalf. It's basically like you're not working for someone else eventually, you're working for yourself. And my personal experience of like a lot of jobs was like selling Cutco in college, Cutco knives.
Everyone's done it.
Everyone's done it.
And I think almost everyone should.
Definitely.
I mean, Robert Kiyosaki even says that everyone needs training in direct marketing.
Yes.
Because if you don't have that and you can't take a rejection, you're never going to survive in this world.
Yeah, totally. Something else, Zig Ziglar, who's a huge influence on my dad, who then passed it on to us. And he would always say, sales isn't something you do to someone, it's something you do for someone. And then it's like, oh, and why would you not want to do something nice for someone? And so like people always get this like stigma of like, oh my gosh, like, oh, there's like salesy and car guy and all this stuff. And it's like, dude, actually, we're here to like serve you and to do something for you and to help you and to truly, what is their goal and how can I help get you there? Another like good vision for that is like from the guy who wrote Blue Like Jazz, Donald Miller. His book on marketing talks about how we're the guide, as specifically I brought that into my business as like I'm the agent, but my client is the hero. And so the guide has been there. So he like references like all the like movies where the main character, there's like some person who's been to the place he's trying to go to, and he can help guide him there. I'm thinking of like, Smeagol and like Frodo, and like he's been there before. It's like, oh, this way, I didn't think we were talking about that, huh? And then, but he has been there to Mordor, and he like guides him there, but like he's not the main character,
right?
And so anyway, it's kind of the same concept of just like, making our clients the hero. But I digress. So what were you about to say?
I was going to say, so you have this idea of, you opened up this idea of real estate in your mid-20s.
Yeah.
And how much research, how much preparation did you do before you actually like started down that journey? Were you one that, oh, I must figure it out, I must do 5 years of study before I can at least utter it into the ether? Or were you one of those guys who's like, you know what, I'm just going to try?
Yeah.
And you just went out there and you got your real estate license and just started not knowing anything.
Yeah, you definitely always want to do research. And for me, it was also based off of who I knew. So I have to rewind a little bit more. So when I graduated, remember I said music business was my major?
Yep.
And entrepreneurship was my minor. Remember when I said I was a believer too? Well, that was also a huge thing in my journey of, this figuring out what you want to do with your life, aka your vocation, your work, your job, your career. So like when I graduated, I had 3 opportunities. I could go and play bass for this band called We Are Messengers
Okay.
and go to tour and play and join them and be on Winter Jam.
Path 1.
Right.
Music.
I could also go and work at for Cru, which is Cambridge
Yep.
Crusade for Christ, a college ministry, and my grandparents were both on staff for several 30+ years, and my aunt's on staff still currently.
Yeah.
And like that made a huge impact for me. And I was like, dude, maybe I joined there. I was thinking maybe the world race.
Okay.
Like basically maybe I go into ministry. Like, I don't know. I feel like called and I love helping
Music,
people.
ministry.
And then it was like, or I could work at this job that's really good pay right out of college at a booking agency. So it's like called William Morris
Music
Endeavor.
booking or what kind of booking?
Booking for talent.
Okay.
Talent booking.
Okay.
So, specifically the one in Nashville was for like, artists and music. And
Nice.
so I ended up doing that route, and it was like the wrong thing at the wrong time with the wrong person kept happening, and it was like the worst experience. But in a good way, but in a bad way. Like the bad way was just like, I was like, I felt depressed and like all my friends have awesome jobs. I'm over here like, my job was like a floating assistant, which is like, you're not even a normal assistant.
You can't even get
You're there.
coffee.
You're there to like the term was I was a floater.
Oh.
Yeah. So
That's
literally
what
you
find
would
in
you
your
would float
drinks.
you would float around to different agents, and like I hope that you know how their desk is run. And also like me being like an ENFP, a 7 on the Enneagram, and out, external processor, like, and I'm doing admin work,
That is
and also the
intense.
admin work is like different every day. And with the
You're
type
like
A
a
agents,
permanent substitute.
I can already see everyone's like, oh man, like they're just like, this is not good. And it wasn't good. But like, I say all that because my mentor friend he'd always say like, you want to try things out in your 20s, fail, grow, learn. And then in your 30s, go do what you feel like you've learned. Like, and so for me, I figured out, okay, that's what I don't want to
Do
do.
people say that out of wisdom or because they just get tired?
I feel like they say that because that just took them forever to figure it out.
Right.
But that was also a lie. It was like, and I think just going back to this whole thing, like you don't have to have it figured out. Just take the next best step and then reevaluate and pay attention to yourself.
Mhm.
And for me too, my dad would always suggest like find someone that you think could do what you could see yourself doing. So like a guy that's maybe 5-10 years ahead of you.
That mentorship model of
Yeah.
just
And then like
or
you don't have to reinvent the wheel. What works for him? So like in a roundabout way, that's how I ended up with real estate.
okay.
Because like all the guys that I was kind of looking up to, like one of the agents at WME is now a real estate developer,
Okay.
and he became a mentor of mine. And he had a very similar personality because I know I would have been great as like an agent. Now I'm just an agent in real estate, which is way better.
You're still an agent.
But
Yeah.
but like, so I never made it to the real estate. I quit. And then I did basically in 2016. I ended up like playing bass for a bunch of bands, touring. And then 2017 had 17 jobs: Uber, Lyft, server,
That is
literally
crazy.
apartment maintenance.
17.
17. Yes. in
That
1
is
year.
a terrible tax
Yeah.
situation.
Don't even get me started. So, and then I ended up like quitting all that, and I was like, I'm just gonna take a pause, work at Topgolf for a little bit. Was a manager there and a server there, and it was like so refreshing. And that's when I got into real estate, and I started noticing like, the one guy I met out of college was his name was Brian Bandis, and he was in the band Love and Theft,
Okay.
and he basically quit that to do real estate full time. And so I'm like paying attention to all these
Right.
guys who are believers and doing music, and now guess what? They're in real estate.
They're a few years ahead of me, and what are they doing?
Yep.
What am I going to do?
The other guy, the guy that was the booking agent,
Yep.
he became a developer, and he was already doing Airbnbs and other stuff on the side.
Oh,
And so I've done like deals with him now. Brian Bandits ended up becoming my mentor, and I joined his team. And he's the one who kind of said, hey, if you can do, why not be an agent by day and an investor by night
come on.
until they switch to where you can be full-time investor. Because
Yeah.
once again, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, dude, why not just get in helping people buy houses, learn how to buy houses for myself, and then I can just do that for myself while helping other people, And then as I got into it, I was like, oh, this is actually super fun and really fulfilling, and everyone needs shelter and houses.
And you just don't have to pay those commissions.
No, I know, right?
You
And
get to
then,
get the commission.
yeah,
Don't pay them.
it was crazy. It blew my mind. But, and then I will say, listening to Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's my research with Bigger Pockets, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Another friend of mine gave me a book by Chip Gaines called Capital Gains.
Okay.
And I listened to that at Christmas going home, and that like blew my mind, because this guy was also like an entrepreneur, but also like believer, giving, doing flips, creative, and just, and so like I always knew like I wanted to be on top of my schedule and be able to create, not like necessarily be honed in and having someone telling you what to do.
Right.
So anyway, that's a little bit about my journey and how I got into real
If
estate.
you haven't been paying attention, that's like 5 book suggestions so far. So
Yeah.
if nothing else coming out of this, you have a book list to
Yeah.
go through.
Book list, and then like do what my dad said, like pay attention to the mentors and the people ahead of you and people that you see. Like one other guy was doing Cause a Scene. His name is Larry Close, and he was in music. Then he started promoting house shows and doing creative concerts. And then guess what? Got his license. So I went down and got coffee with him. So like,
Yeah.
I bought lunch for all 3 of those guys at different times, just to like pick their brain, like what we have done for research and stuff.
Yep.
And like, why are you doing this? And how'd you get there? And it was just like so glaringly obvious. And one of the things he said was like, hey, look around. You see that building over there? I'm like, yeah. He's like, someone did a deal. Someone made that happen. Someone did a deal and made that, deal happen.
Absolutely.
And I was like, huh. He's like, why can't it be you? And what about that one over there? And what about that house? And I was like, yeah, like I literally felt like my mind was like being blown, like I'm like awakened into the matrix. And obviously the same for like even more so with Rich Dad Poor Dad and assets, and like seeing how these things can compound over time, and with real estate, all the benefits. But yeah, I'm super passionate about investing in yourself and taking time to also pay attention to what you're good at, what you're not good at, where God's calling you, how you're wired. We both have done a lot of counseling personally.
Yep.
And then that's also helped us in our journeys as entrepreneurs, because if you can't lead yourself, how are you going to lead a business?
Right.
So like leading ourselves spiritually, emotionally, physically, all these things. And then like really find people that that are ahead of you that you're interested in, and sit down with them, get to know them. And then, you never know. Like the guy I met for Brian Bandis was like from a Bible study that I was doing like 10 years
Getting out there
earlier.
and networking and just asking people,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And I found for myself that just having the conversation about what I'm trying to do opens up doors, because when people know what you're trying to do, they remember. And then they're like, hey, I remember this guy. What was his name? Oh, yeah, Logan. He's trying to do some real estate deals, and I need to buy a house. So I'll call him. Or, it's Brit who's doing this. I need to ask her about my internet marketing. Like, it's just, as long as even if you haven't started yet, talking about even what you're going to do
Totally
can produce a lot of fruit. I mean, for me in my professional job that I do now, in networking, but not in person networking and computer networking, but it came out of a conversation 2 years before I actually got the job, of literally just someone asking me, what are you interested in? I said, maybe kind of computers. I don't know. And that turned into a job that I've been in for almost a decade.
Dude, it's crazy how these little things end up adding up.
Yeah.
Like one of the other reasons I got into real estate was like my landlord. I was like, hey, would you ever sell this house? And I lived here for like 3 years at this point. And she was like, no. I was like, oh man, well, if you did, like I would, maybe be interested in buying it, because I would do this, this, and this. And I started like painting a picture of like how I would renovate and update. She's like, you should get into real estate, and so like all of those things were happening, like compounding one after the other.
Right.
And once again,
the seed was planted for years, and
but like it's crazy. Once again, like I wasn't even trying to get into it necessarily. It was just like once I believe like God opened the doors, and you never know. Like I didn't join a Bible study so that I could network with this guy, and then eventually he would be my team leader and be like the main reason I joined real estate. But like, because I just got to know someone, like, hey man, I'm from the future and I know what, thank you, let me use it. But like, because I was like, we were both chasing after the same thing. And then so that's like another lesson or principle is like surround yourself with people that are aligned towards like the main principles that you're aligned with,
Absolutely.
and then guess what's going to happen? Like, you guys are going to be, helping each other without even realizing it because you're chasing after the same things.
Doors and opportunities just emerge
Mhm.
through that openness and pursuit of like-mindedness.
What's the saying? It's like, all ships rise
Rise
together.
together.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, versus just like running out on your own. And that's the other thing is like entrepreneurship, it can be lonely, but it's not a lonely journey because like you got there because of all the other people that you're standing on their shoulders and like the advice and the mentors and, and that's why also like YouTube and stuff and learning is great, but like the physical interaction, I think
Yep.
is the most important because like otherwise, there's only so much, it's not as interactive with YouTube and some of that stuff.
And I would make a distinction between, I've been growing in my practical language of business. And so one thing is like solopreneur,
Mhm.
the person who owns their job can be very lonely because if I'm just a creator and I'm at home and I'm in my studio and I never interact with the outside world and my interface is a lens, then that could be very lonely. Or if I'm just a plumber and I don't have a team, I don't have any, and I'm just out there cleaning up crap and
Yep.
by myself. There's the solopreneur, then there's the entrepreneur who actually builds a business that they can lead, a team that they can influence, a company they can grow. And then there's the serial entrepreneur who says entrepreneurship's not enough for me. I'm gonna do this a lot. And
Right.
and there
Yeah.
there are distinctives.
I'm leading 10 businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alex Ramosi.
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
There's a list.
Ricky Mark Wahlberg. Yeah. If you haven't seen, what was that? The Wall Street, that show?
Yeah.
What was it just called? Wall
I
Street?
think it was just called Wall Street.
Amazing
seen it.
documentary
That
about
man.
Mark Wahlberg being a serial entrepreneur and investing in like tequila, investing in
Yeah.
the burgers restaurant that he has.
Oh, yeah, that's
and
right.
investing in obviously his career, but then like a clothing company. Like that, honestly, like for sure recommend that to all entrepreneurs listening.
Right. So let me ask some specifics about your business.
Let's do it.
All right. So what kind of business corporation do you have, if you have one? Because here's what I have experienced with other people on the show, is that you have this idea, you have this pursuit, you say, okay, now I'm actually going to do the thing. I'm going to jump in, I'm going to do it. What do I need? And then you type in Google, what do I need to start a business? And then the first thing that pops up is, well, you need an LLC. And then everybody just gets an LLC, or they go do this or they go do that. And then they just don't ever go back, or they don't do it. Or I met a couple that they had a $500,000 a year net revenue network marketing business, and it was a sole proprietorship. They didn't have any sort of corporate protection or anything like that. It was absolutely wild. So for you, Britt, you've started this business. It's your entrepreneurship journey.
Mhm.
Is it an entity? Is it not an entity? Are you guys a together entity? How does this work?
We are not a together entity. So I
Okay.
didn't start with an LLC, and I can give a couple reasons why, but I just jumped in as a sole proprietor.
Okay.
And then I registered. I technically have an EIN number. I have
Yep.
a registered business, and that's it. I kept it really simple. No one take this as legal advice or tax advice.
Not
but
at all.
We have
This is a conversation.
we have a CPA, and we spoke to him, and his advice was to wait until I made at least, what was it, like maybe 50K in net profit
Okay.
to start an LLC, just because LLCs are expensive to
It's a couple
maintain,
$1,000s.
and you just don't
Yeah.
really need it when you're just getting started and you don't really even have any income
Mhm.
coming in yet. So
Right.
that is where I'm at now. Next year, I will move to an LLC.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, but this was back, I mean, I didn't actually register anything until closer middle of last year.
Okay.
So there was a good 8 months where I was kind of just floundering.
Got it.
And didn't have any registered business.
And
so-
would you still stand by that process, now being more on the latter side of things, where like, okay, we're moving towards LLC, we're moving. Did that feel like good advice to stay a sole
Yes.
proprietorship? Okay.
Yes, I think so. And there was actually some tax benefits because Logan has an LLC for his business, where I could kind of pay him come tax time. Like there was actually some tax benefits for us. I don't know exactly how to explain
Yeah.
it, but
It's for the
it just,
CPAs.
yeah, it made sense for us as a couple because he has an LLC.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
And so for you, Logan,
Mhm.
and you started your real estate journey, and did you immediately start that with a corporate entity, or did you start sole proprietor? How did that start for you?
Yeah, there's a really good video people could watch about paying yourself and setting up an LLC by Tom Ferry. If you just type in like Tom Ferry budget.
We'll put that link in the description.
Yeah, that will be good. But he basically talks about paying yourself, because a lot of times people make money and then the real estate commission hits, and then, you know, but they're not really like thinking like they're just, oh, I just made money, versus like you are a business, you're a business owner,
Right.
you need to operate it. So for me, it was a sole proprietorship until I made enough money, similar with the advice of the CPA, and then turned it to an LLC,
Mm-hmm.
and then but filed as a S corp.
Got it.
So that
LLC
way,
S corp. Okay.
So I'm like paying less taxes. I think we saved like 20 grand in taxes just because of that,
That's
like
awesome.
the last
Mhm.
2 years or whatever. And then as far as I also formed an LLC with 2 business partners of mine called Gyra Ventures Movement,
Okay.
and we bought property in that name.
Got
So that was also good because then you develop credit history with the bank,
it. Mm-hmm.
with your business, and you're making income and showing, profit and loss through that. And you can develop a business line of credit and a history, but then also obviously for the liability purposes. So who owns the property? Let me come after Logan. Like, no, I'm protected.
Right.
We do plan on putting a lot of these things all in a trust, and then in us forming like a couple other businesses together for future investments.
Okay.
But that's where we're at right now with the LLCs, like 2 LLCs that I own, and then Brit will be forming an LLC next year, and then just really leaning in on our CPA for how we're filing it,
Okay.
because there's just so many strategies, tax benefits, and things that are just like way beyond what I know, and I've like learned a ton.
I will say, start using QuickBooks or a similar software
Oh, gotcha.
early on.
Okay.
We use QuickBooks. Like I have QuickBooks for my business, and then the director of operations on my team,
Yep.
we meet up and go through that, and Brit uses it for hers.
It just makes it so much easier to track your expenses
Mhm.
and run P&L reports and have a good
Yeah.
screenshot of where your business is at too,
And there's a
aside
free
from the
version
tax time.
type software called Wave.
Yes, I've
And
heard of
it
that.
will move you right into QuickBooks because you get it for free and you can set up so many accounts. And then when you actually have business so that you can pay for your subscriptions, then you can move it into QuickBooks. It's a really cool system.
Yeah.
So I want to just, you mention on something and I want to bring us into this part of the conversation. So Britt, you are about to have an entity. Logan, you have a couple entities, and it's been very strategic about, we're having a couple conversations, a couple, like marriage couple conversations
Mhm.
about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And so being my first couple on the podcast, how does business work for you both? Like, are you sharing QuickBooks? Are you talking about strategies together? And so that we have this tax advantage and this tax advantage, like, I want to open up to the couple conversation and say, how are you doing business together?
We are aligned with.
Sorry, I'm laughing because it's definitely an area that we're growing in.
Yeah.
And this has been difficult. Just communicating about finances as a married couple can already be challenging. And then throw into separate businesses, it does get a little bit complicated
Absolutely.
sometimes. Now, we have separate bank accounts for our businesses.
Sure.
And then we have a joint family account. Now, we still have access to each other's
Yep.
accounts, but it just makes it so much easier to have his checks going to one place, my income going to one place from a QuickBooks standpoint, from an all-over standpoint. And then we'll just kind of move money around as needed to
For
these
sure.
other accounts, just depending on what we're doing. So that's just kind of how we have that set up. In terms of communicating with our finances or how we're actually running it, we have separate QuickBooks accounts.
Oh,
And you
okay.
actually can't do more than one business on QuickBooks. You have
I did
to
not
get
know
like a
that.
separate subscription.
Of course.
Of course you do, because they make more money that way. So I have one QuickBooks for my business. You have one quick, right? Do you have
Yeah,
one
just
QuickBooks for
one
yours?
for 'cause Gyro Ventures movement's about to be sold, and we really only have one property now with that one.
Got it.
And that one's just been like very simple, very basic. So there's no real need for us to have the other one. But my real estate business is like,
Mhm.
you know, tons of expenses, tons of stuff going out. Now I'm like, I have 2 people I'm paying. And so it's like, got to be on top of that.
So
But
just on the day to day, I want to
mhm,
just get nitty gritty with this. And like on a day to day, like you have a marriage, you have your personal life, church life, you have business, you have normal financial conversations, you have all these other things. Like, how do you find the right ratios and not be all consuming in one area or not super specific in the other? Like, how do you find that balance in your relationship to have business and then I have a friend over here that I want to have a coffee with, and like, but it affects the business because they're probably gonna come on board, and like, how do you navigate the day to day conversation of business, family, personal, and so on?
yeah, we definitely have to set boundaries
Okay,
and
between each other, between the business
between
and
everything, really.
okay,
Like, I mean, going back, like for the budgeting and stuff like that, we try and make sure we are doing at least once a week, if not twice a week, on like Wednesdays. And the budgeting is more like, hey, like we're aligned. We both trust each other with our businesses and
yeah,
what we're doing. And we will share like big expenses or obviously when big money's coming in.
sure,
But as far as like operations day to day, it's kind of like, hey, I trust you, do your thing, go crush it. I'm not really involved.
mm-hmm.
But then like, hey, well, what are we building towards? Okay, well, we feel God leading us towards giving towards these people, or we want to build this, or we want to save for this, or we want to buy a truck, or we want to so like those types of conversations, and then stewarding our finances with like, are we living within our means? Like
Mm-hmm.
earlier we had mentioned off camera, I think like one of our goals is to live off of Brit's income, and then all of my income goes towards just investments.
Cool, yeah,
And so those meetings though, as far as like how do we do that day to day? Well, we don't do it daily, but we try and do it weekly. We're not perfect at it, but we really strive for that.
mm-hmm.
And that was something that really early on in our marriage we strived for,
Mm-hmm.
because we heard like there's so many different um just other advice from other couples and wisdom and counseling and stuff. Like, hey, like married money is a huge deal breaker and also
Yeah,
can be really
The number one
intense.
reason people get
But
divorced.
they were like, don't neglect meeting once a week to discuss money and budgeting.
mhm.
And so we really tried to do that. So we call it Sacred Sundays. And so we try and keep the sacred Sunday by having the meeting and just, even though it's annoying, just go through it. What are you spending? What do we need to dial back on?
Yeah,
We actually have like, if you really want to get on the nitty gritty, like this is like a document that we review, and it's like at the very top of our notes, Sacred Sundays, and it's like the Ray family budget, and it goes through like a lot of questions, like are we tithing? What big expenses are coming up?
yeah.
Investment goals. What about our businesses? What's about our calendars? Are there any agreements we need to make? What are our action steps? And then we basically have scriptures behind each of those principles.
That's awesome. And just for our listening audience, what Logan did was he has a note on his phone that just listed all of those questions out to prompt the conversation
Mhm.
forward, so we're not
Mhm.
missing anything. I
Yeah.
think that's awesome. I mean, full transparency seems to be present, but there's also this like, hey, I trust you to run your business, and I want to know what's happening, but I don't need to know 4,000 foot level. I'm 30,000 foot level, and if I have
Exactly.
insecurities or I have fears, I'm going to bring it up and we're going to talk about it. But the day to day grind around like, hey, are you using, this computer program or that computer program? Like, if I find something really cool, I'll share it with you, but I don't care.
Yeah.
And I feel that might be the healthy boundary.
Mhm.
We haven't yet done this in my own marriage yet because we haven't started a business, but the idea of full transparency, but we can have our own things. Like there's still autonomy within our
Yeah.
collective union and transparency.
Totally.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And then if this is another piece of advice, if you both have businesses where you're working in the house, having your own separate spaces, because Logan does a lot of driving for work. So he
Sure.
is in and out a lot more than I am. But having our own spaces. And I mean, we didn't purposely plan them on opposite ends of the house, but it has been nice to just like, hey, you're in your office. Sometimes I forget, like, is he even home? I don't know.
Right.
Because our businesses are so separate. We really aren't even talking that much throughout the day, especially if he's in and out. But just having your own space to go to think, to do your own work is really, really important.
Yeah, totally. And I would say too, like you being aware and respecting, because like Brit's office is like more open versus I have like a door and I can shut it. So
Yeah.
sometimes like I'm just hanging out in the den when her office is up there, but I'm on my phone calling on
He's on
speakerphone and
speakerphone doing a deal. I'm
negotiating.
like,
You are just
So
can you be
she's
anywhere
like,
else
would
right
you want me
now?
to do that if I just came into your office? I was like, no. So having, just conversations and respecting each other, but then like you went like the day to day, like, what's the balance, right? For some of that stuff. And we are in a season where we're very much like work is number one. And, you know, outside of like following God and serving him, like taking care of ourselves and like, basically building business. We are in grind mode and building business mode
right.
because of we're trying to plant seeds and foundations for the future so that in the future we can take time off because we took time early in our marriage to build businesses that are now sustained and sustainable. That's
Right.
one of the reasons why I'm starting a team,
Yeah.
which we'll go into that here, I guess, when we talk about goals and stuff. But like that's important because otherwise, well, we know like we're in the same season. So it's not like I'm mad that like she's working at like 8:30 or doing, at one point doing TikTok lives when she was selling stuff, and it's like, hey, this just went till 11, but then like sees me over there negotiating sometimes till 11.
Right.
So there's like, I think that's where there's like a genuine grace and understanding because we're both entrepreneurs that have had like, hey, sometimes businesses don't turn off, or sometimes you got to do
Yeah.
the deal,
Right.
or you got to go make money.
Especially in real estate.
You got to go strike when you can, when the fire's hot and all that. But
Someone says, I want to go fee it right now. And you're like, oh,
yeah, like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Really
we've-
like, but I definitely, set boundaries, but at the same time, like I can and I will, versus, hey, I have family and, that's why one of the secrets is like leveraging that stuff out, like hiring people underneath you, setting boundaries with your clients. But we do, as far as the balance though, we do try and take like a rest day on Saturdays.
Okay.
And so that's more of our Sabbath. And I just tell my clients like, hey, I'm a better agent if I'm taking a day off. I will work even more better, even more efficiently for you. Then
Yeah.
I'm well rested and also not working 24/7.
Mhm.
But then, if we need to do something that day, if it's an emergency, we can try and make it happen. Otherwise, it can be taken care of Sunday or Friday night,
Right. Right.
whatever, as far as like offers and stuff like that. And if you just let people know up front, they understand, like they have their lives too. You're not just like on demand all the time. And if you are, then like maybe we're not a good fit, probably shouldn't work together
I got you.
because I don't want to be taken advantage of. Like there's mutual respect, so, but I don't know if that answered the balance question, but we try and like,
There was no wrong answer.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
It did sound extremely out of balance. So.
Yeah.
having our own date nights
Mm-hmm.
helps too, because when we're just in the house going about our day and we're just
Hanging
kind
out
of
all
on
the
our phones
time.
because we both work from our phone
Yeah.
basically. So to have kind of some set times where we're together and it's kind of understood that we're just more present with each
Right.
other. And then we try to at night as well, if we're just going to watch a show or just wind down together, we try to just put our phones up and just have those set times where it's understood that we're more present with each other, because it is easy to, at the end of the day, I'm like, I feel like I've kind of been around you all day, but we haven't really had a conversation,
Right.
like
Right.
a quality. And, one of my love languages is quality time. So I can feel like, okay, well, I guess he's been here all day, but I still don't really feel that quality time, checked off the list. So having date nights, having set times where you kind of put your phone away, and then also having a support system for your business outside of your partner is, I think, has
Totally.
been really
That's a good
helpful.
point.
I mean, just like you need other friends and relationships outside of your marriage,
Mhm.
having other people that are business owners that know the ins and outs of your business and your goals that are not your spouse is great, because he is my number one fan, my number one cheerleader, my number one support system, but he can't be the only person with eyes on my
Well, it's a lot of
business.
pressure on the spouse
And that's,
too.
yeah.
Right? You
We,
know, it's not wise, in my
I mean, you're
opinion.
really great.
yeah.
Thank you.
He's
But
But
you know, if you want to
we can
be,
also
if
have
you
great
want to, if we want our marriage to last and this to be sustainable, you know,
right.
you want to, you know, it says Proverbs, a man of many counselors is wise, you know, versus
Mhm.
just leaning on the one person. Once again, like a lot of pressure. What if that person, your spouse, is sick, you know, and then they can't be there, and now you're like, oh, what do I do? And it's like, if you want to really grow, you need to be able to like feed from other places versus
Yeah.
just one source of life and food and water and all that. Like, you need to have multiple.
So we each have our
Yeah.
own business masterminds
Mhm.
with a couple friends. And that has, I think, really helped just kind of have some support from other areas, and but also not just put so much pressure on our
Mhm.
relationship.
well, then you can come together and share ideas. And
Yeah.
not just
Totally.
be like ripping things out of each other. Be like, hey, I got this thing from Sue, and I got this thing from Peter, and let's do it together. And oh, you're going to implement this in my business, and we're going to implement this in your. And oh, have you tried this cool thing that I just learned? It
Exactly.
can become a collaborative effort instead of a competitive effort.
I think too, like, once again, then it doesn't just lean on this person, this one person keeping you accountable. You know, like, she can't be my everything. Like, that's why, like, both of us early on, like within my first year of real estate, I was like, I need to create a group of guys that can keep me accountable, that are entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, got a couple other guys, and we've been meeting together for like 3.5 years
Okay.
every week, and we go through like personal, professional,
Yeah.
and like spiritual goals and
Mhm.
alignment for all that stuff. And we meet for like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. And then within a year of Brit doing it, she created her mastermind group of
Okay.
right now like 3 entrepreneurial women, and they keep each other. And like, it's really inspiring, but it's also like we both feel more refreshed and like fulfilled, and also like we help them as well.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really giving, like life giving and fulfilling, but then also really helpful for us to have like, and that's why it's called the mastermind, like, you know,
Absolutely.
a group of other people that are excellent, that can see from other perspectives. And if you just, once again, if you're just leaning on one person, you're missing out. You know,
Right.
you should, you know, in my opinion, like, you know, if you want to go far, you need to be able to draw from several different places versus just one source.
Especially in the beginning, if you're just a solopreneur. And I'm a one-woman show right now, so it can get a little lonely. Whereas like he's in his 4th year, I'm in my 1st year. So he's just now really building a team, and he's
Right.
having a
Different
lot more
stage.
community. Yeah,
Yeah.
little different stage.
So are you guys competitive in regards to your businesses, in regards to growth or income, or does that show up at all in your partnerships?
I think I'm probably more competitive, but there's
It's unspoken.
it's an unspoken role, but it's kind of like, you know, am I going to make more than you this year, or is she going to catch up to me, or does she make more than me than my first year? And you know, it's like sometimes like that comes about, but it's like a fun competitiveness. But it's just number one, fans and just supporting. Like, I think some couples, they can work together in the same industry really well, and we probably would, but I really love that we're also separate, because like, I don't know, she was like, oh, when you're negotiating and all that stuff, like, I wouldn't be good at that, or I wouldn't like that, or, and I'm like, I don't know if I would want to do what you're doing too. But there's like a mutual respect, and like, I guess a trust, and what's the word, celebration
Yeah.
of one another in the differences, and that's really fun.
And kind of diversifying our income stream.
If real estate takes a dip, but network,
Exactly.
digital marketing goes up, then like you're able to capitalize.
It's funny you
Yeah.
say that, because that literally has happened.
Okay.
Like beginning of the year was, you know, it's January, a little bit slower in real
Everybody spent
estate,
their money on Christmas.
but then like digital marketing, she dropped
Yeah, I had my highest month when he had his lowest
a
month.
digital product,
Interesting.
like
Yeah, I
a
was, like,
guide
launching a
on
new
TikTok
product.
Shop, on like how to like navigate and use TikTok Shop,
Okay.
and freaking exploded, and like carried us through, and like we got to do, you know, it didn't just pay for like the bills. It was like, oh, we can do some investments now, you know. And then a little bit slower months later for her, real estate kicked off. So, you know, we're trying to build sustainable pillars,
Mm-hmm.
and but also that aren't just high and low, and like sales based, commission based. But right now,
Right.
but that's why like you live within your budget, live within your means, and then you can put the rest into businesses and assets that are working for you, no matter what the real estate market's doing,
I got
or
you.
no matter what e-commerce or digital marketing is doing. Like, oh, people aren't buying your stuff because you're building a new something else. Cool. Well, you have this subscription. You have 50 people that are subscribed to it, and they're all paying $100 a month.
Heck yeah.
That's awesome. So, but we're really excited. Like, I would just say the key for us working together is celebrating each other, and like, and going to God daily. And like, we do have trials, and we try and go to God with those whenever we're going walks and exercising and get out. And like, we have similar goals with exercise. So that's like a lot of alignment. And sometimes, a lot of times, we'll problem solve together.
Okay.
That's our time
Or
to.
maybe she just needs a listening ear and someone to vent to. Or maybe she really needs another solution, and she'll go to her mastermind. But then like, what does her husband think? Or same for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this crazy deal just happened and this and this. And what do you think we should do? And she's like, I think you should do this. I'm like, okay. Because it's
You
like
drop
business
the client.
principles. Yeah.
Right.
Right? You fired.
Mhm.
But that is another really, I would say, like, just like principle in us making this sustainable is like, we have these pillars that we're aligned with, and we can, once again, celebrate and encourage each other in the journey. And when she's low, I can, speak encouragement and bring her up and speak vision. And like, if I'm feeling down, she can help me out. And it's just like, that's where it's like a spouse who has like a 9 to 5 and then another one who's an entrepreneur, they can't really relate as much versus like, we're both on the line every day, taking big risk. There's big rewards, but also like there's pressure, and like the highs are highs, the lows are low. It's not easy. You got to keep getting back up. No one's making you do this. And if you don't work, you're not making any money. And so that can be difficult. And so it's like, we can both feel that. And when we're both feeling that, once again, that's why we have the masterminds. We have other people pouring into us, and mentors and stuff. But like, for each other, it's really like fulfilling, and just like, she's been there, just like, I don't know, God's timing on lifting each other up and encouraging each other.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to spitfire a couple of questions.
Do it.
And it's going to be about your first year in business. And I'll start with you, Logan. And I'm going to give you a couple questions that row, so you can either just answer them or give me in a narrative. What was your capital investment when you first got started? What was your revenue and or profit that first year? And how many hours per week were you putting in?
Okay, so capital investment, real estate, starting a business in real estate, being an agent, getting licensed, you can get in very cheap, So
Very cheap, meaning
like
$30,000.
like less than $5,000.
Less than $5,000. Okay.
Yeah. So like, you pay for your tests, you pay for your licensing, you pay for your insurance, and then outside of like some other desk fees, and then you hang your you pass. Like, you can literally become a licensed real estate you can actually become a licensed real estate agent within a month
That's awesome.
if you wanted to. It took me about a year, but because the test is not easy. And besides this podcast, no one ever really asked that.
I know there's a little bit of false
Yeah.
advertising right at the moment.
You can do it within a month, because I see people do it, and it's not that expensive. But here's the caveat: because it's so easy, guess what the turnover rate is for most real estate agents after 2 years?
80%.
90.
Wow.
On average, 90% don't even make it to beyond a
24
year.
months. That's insane.
Because it's so easy to get in, that the barrier to get in is so low.
That's like network marketing or a lot of other,
Mhm.
content
And
creation.
everyone's like, oh, I'll go get my license. I can help my friends and family. It's like, okay. And then, all right, now that you've helped your friends and family, you have to begin to actually be a business owner, and it's a sales job, and you need to be able to, like, are you ready to build your brand long-term and do, there's a lot more than just helping someone buy a house.
It's the exact same as the insurance industry. Everybody comes in and they do it for 18 months. And once they've sold their friends and family, everybody's got life insurance now. And you're out of business because you never had a business to start with. You had a job.
Exactly.
It's a good job.
Yep.
But it never turned the page into an actual business.
Yeah.
So about how many hours per week were you putting in, do you think, that
So
first year?
The first year, so like less than 5,000 capital investment.
Yep.
I became a full-time agent. And
You just
so
went for it.
40, 50, 60 hours minimum,
Okay.
pretty much working all the time. Sometimes though it would be less, but for the most part I was always on.
Yeah.
But a lot of my business was based off of my sphere,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just letting people know what I did everywhere I went. Not salesy, just servant oriented,
Mhm.
and just how can I help? I would hit up people on the phone, but then after that, it just began snowballing into more of like referrals. And then as far as how much I made that year,
Yeah.
right around like 45 to 50,000.
Okay.
So I could have made more, but I joined a team,
Uh-huh.
and so my encouragement that was given to me was your first year it should be all about learning, not
Mhm.
earning. And because I could have earned more, but I wouldn't have learned as much because of the team.
And ultimately, your clients might not have been as happy, and then repeat
Exactly.
clients, and then grading,
Right.
increasing your network of
Yeah.
influence. And like,
Well, you were a client,
I
and
was.
we worked together, but you were like my second client or third, I think, one of those.
I was there at the beginning.
One of my second or third, and hired me based off of trust and integrity, but not experience, because I didn't have any experience. But guess who did have experience? My team.
Yeah.
And so I
Mhm.
leaned in on them, and we got the job done. And we've done other deals since, but like
Mm-hmm.
once again, that was for me really important. So that was how much I made that first year. And the second year, it just quadrupled after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For you, Britt, you started your business in e-commerce. So this would be a little bit different of a narrative, because you're not just doing the same thing that you started with,
Right.
but your first year of jumping into entrepreneurship and not doing this other job or anything like that. What do you think, if any, the capital investment was? How many hours were you putting in per week? And what do you think you increased or what you earned in that first year?
Yeah. So time wise, I mean, I was putting a full time, at least 40 hours a week, sometimes more, maybe sometimes a little bit less, just depending on what that week looked like. I really put myself through school. So I chose, and you can get into this any way you want. I mean, the great thing about e-commerce, if you're just doing drop shipping, that means you're not actually buying the inventory ahead of
Right.
time. So it's very low risk, very low barrier to entry. You can get started just with a Shopify account, which is just the software to
Free for 30
take payments.
days. And
Yeah,
then
basically.
$15 a month.
So, I mean, if you want to just do bare bones, you could start drop shipping with $50. I chose to have some mentorship behind me and really try to learn the ropes. So that first year, I mean, I probably spent anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 just on mentorship and courses and education,
Got it.
because I just saw this as I'm learning a new skill. So that's not required. And then when I chose to actually ship product out of my house and do more custom things,
Mhm.
I really officially started this business in May of 2023.
Oh,
So I was a little bit late getting started with that.
We're just
So
over a year and a couple months into the full-time process. That's
yes,
so
yes, I was kind of in school before that, and a lot of failing and figuring it all out. So for that, the actual product, I think I bought maybe $1,000 worth of inventory. I was like, okay, if I can sell 1,000,
Mhm.
then I'll, just reinvest. And that would be my biggest piece of advice to anyone starting a business, is just start small and then just keep reinvesting the
Right.
profits
That's
to
good.
grow.
Don't on
So
the first try. Just we're getting on base.
yeah. So I spent probably a couple $1,000s just getting supplies and everything needed to actually do the business from my house and ship out the product. And I made about $50,000 gross income from June to December of last
Okay.
year with that. So, I mean, I was reinvesting some more into
Right.
product, but my profit margins were pretty good just for the actual bare bones of running the business. I was just spending more education on like how to do more social media content. So that was just kind of extra things I knew. I mean, he was telling me every day, like, it's more about earning than learning. So I'm really thankful that he was kind of letting me and reinvest a lot of that first year's income, because I know not everyone can do that. But if you have the you know, blessing to do that, definitely take that extra time and get some more education under your belt because it's just going to help you so much in the long run. So I don't know exactly how much I netted by the end of the year, but probably 50 to 60% just because I did spend a lot on just extra education.
You know, it's interesting. I think that people go for broke way too quickly, way too often, and that there's a time to, shove off from the dock and just go for it. But there's also, depending on your life situation or your circumstances, or whether you're doing this by yourself or not, there is the time to, okay, I'm going to be in just the learning phase for a year, and I'm just going to input because education today is pretty cheap. I mean, we got YouTube and we got a ton of free e-courses and we got stuff out there where you can just learn and input and experiment, do a free account here, do this there, do a $500 run, do a $1,000 run, do a $5,000 run. And you don't have to quit everything, go for broke with a $50,000 product and then just hope it works.
Right.
No.
Because you're not going to learn everything with one product or one idea. Like I feel entrepreneurship is it's this linear progression of idea after iteration after idea after iteration. And eventually you get to a place where you're like, I got some mastery or some skill in this area. And that's really cool. to
Yes,
actually
I've
see.
had dozens of failed product ideas and campaign ideas and all kinds of stuff. Alex Hormozy actually has an awesome quote talking about comparing entrepreneurship to the baseball game and how many home runs does a pro baseball player hit out of how many times he actually swings a bat, you know? And so if you look at each time you go up to the plate as like an idea or an iteration of whatever you're trying, it's probably not going to work. But the ones that do work make it so much worth it and then some, and those are the successes that people see.
Right. Well, and the whole timeline of entrepreneurship, I think, has been so saturated and faked, especially on social media, where they're like, you know what? My first product, it hit and I was making $20,000 a month and I was only doing 1 hour a month to do this thing. And now I live in Baja. And it's just like, what are you talking about? That's not true. It's not real. Like the content itself is not even real, but you did get 50 million views. And so like, maybe you're a content creator, like not a business person. Like it's the idea that you can have one product or idea or the first thing hits, or it's just so easy. No, like hear the narrative, people. Like Logan, you put in 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Brit, you put 40, 50, 60 hours a week just to get started. That was learning.
Yeah, we both jumped in full time.
Yeah.
I was able to jump in full time and only live off of like that 40, 45,000 that first year.
Yeah.
Because it was just me, and for Brit, she was able to do that. But like, luckily, I was year 2 or 3 into my business and making more. So we could live off of my income while she kind of, tries a bunch of products and they don't work and goes through those first 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months of stuff not working and like spending money. And then, and then some stuff does take off. And that's just like a part of the process. And I would say like, you can have a one-hit wonder and be talented and that can get you there. But what will sustain you is your habits.
Right.
And that's where a lot of people fall short. Like people have better ideas than you and I, but
absolutely.
they don't have the consistency, the persistence, the discipline, the drive, the why, the vision behind it to propel them to get to complete that or to sustain that. And that's where you have to fall in love with the journey in the process.
Yeah. What game are you playing? Are you playing who earns the most in 2024? Or are you playing the game that says who's going to be around in 15 years?
Exactly.
Like I know plenty of guys that still go back to the grocery store and are stocking shelves. Not that there's anything wrong with stocking shelves, but if your goal is a real estate empire or doing this business idea with marketing digitally or creating e-courses or, whatever the dream is, if you just push so hard and put everything in one pot and then that's non-sustainable, that's really sad because it's taken you out. It's hurt you emotionally and it's deprived the market from a quality skill or a quality product or a bright idea that may never actually happen.
Yeah.
To me, that's just sad.
Good. Totally. Yeah. I think you have to, remember, don't be afraid to fail,
Mm-hmm.
and then just get back up and reevaluate,
Yeah.
and surround yourself with, friends, like develop these principles. Like we keep saying, like mentorship and creating a tribe, people that are aligned with the same pillars and vision and things that you're chasing after.
Mm-hmm.
They can encourage you, they can lift you up, and then like know where you're going. If you don't course correct, you can end up way off track. Like an example of like if you take a flight from Atlanta and your end goal is like San Diego, 1 degree off is not the big of a deal until you get to the destination. That 1 degree has now actually landed you in Oregon, right? But if you course correct, you get off by 1 degree and then you course correct and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Right.
I'm off by 1 degree. And if that keeps happening, that's going to land me in Oregon. I need to course correct so I can go back to San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
aka Switchfoot, my favorite band out there. Then like you will do that. But like a lot of people don't know their why. And
Mhm.
so they don't know the destination. They don't know where they're going. I'm not saying you have to have that all figured out, but like, what is a destination, a spot that you want to go to?
Right.
So like for me to be realistic, like I knew that I wanted to start a family one day. So I'm going to get into real estate. Well, if I only go part-time while I'm a server at Topgolf, that's going to stunt my growth.
Mm.
So I was like, you know what? All I got to do is get one deal a month, and that'll be sustainable for me to provide for myself and then save for a future family. And so I took the leap and went back to Topgolf where I was working. And this is like, once again, in COVID, it was about to like open back up again. And I was like, hey, I'm going to jump full time into real estate, and I'm
Just
doing
went
it.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like next thing you know, one deal happened a month, and the next month, and the next month, and then 2 deals a month, and then it happened to 3, and then went back down to 1. But like it basically gave me enough momentum to jump forward. And that was just my journey. But like I knew that, why did I do that? How was I able to take on the risk? Because I wanted to start a family one day, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to provide as much if I was working a server job
Yeah.
till 2 a.m. at Topgolf.
Absolutely.
And everyone's got to assess their own situation.
Yep.
I would say for the most part, don't quit your day job. But
For the most part, yes. I think most people should not, they should learn and then jump.
right.
Not jump and be like, it'll happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you heard our journey, our story. Like we didn't get into it immediately. There was iterations of entrepreneurship and failing and trying things out
Yeah.
for our careers. And like we leaned in on mentors. We took a lot of learning. And then our first year, we didn't even make a whole lot. We both learned
Yeah.
and spent a lot of money and a lot of time and energy, but like, that's the thing. Like, that's why we didn't give up though, because we knew this can be life-giving, sustainable, able for us to have a family and not have to be working all the time.
Yeah. And I just wish more entrepreneurs, especially the ones, running their ads on social media about how they're working 1 hour a day and they
Mhm.
live in Bali. I wish people had more realistic conversations about what it actually takes to run a successful business and the time frame,
Mhm.
because I was very misled jumping into business,
Right.
and if it weren't for you just telling me like, hey, if you just stay in the game, you will have success. This really
Right.
is just a mental battle of like, can you
Easy
just
to quit.
trudge through
hard
the
to stay in
mud
the game.
long enough to learn the
Mhm.
skill sets,
It's
and
the
I
people that
think,
stay around for 5 years that are successful at it, not the
Yeah.
ones that are in and out in 2 months.
I know you can't see the video of this, but I'm going to make a little curve with my hand here. The entrepreneurship journey is like down, 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 and then it just exponentially
Yeah.
goes up.
Mm-hmm.
And most people quit right in the valley before that exponential growth happens. And I
Fire.
think and I get it. We live in this microwave society where people want instant gratification, and they've been lied to or misled about what it actually takes.
Right.
And so if you don't have to be the smartest person, but if you just decide that this is going to work for you and you stick with it, like success is inevitable.
Yeah.
Truly.
I feel like you just plugged this podcast, or at least the origin story. Like, I mean, I feel misled in so much of what entrepreneurship and business is. And
Same.
that's why I wanted to find a resource that gave me practical business stories that I can relate to, because I don't come from a business background in regards to like my family didn't own a bunch of businesses. There were some entrepreneurial outbursts here and there, but this is something new in regards to where are my influences and what is my vision? What even is vision? Like the vision used to be in culture and family and mindset was, you know, you just get that 9 to 5 and you work that for 30 or 40 years
And then you retire.
and then you retire and you can do that and be okay, but I'm not looking to be okay. I'm looking for what's beyond okay. And that intrigues me, and the practical conversation is really, I mean, that's why we're here.
I know. I love it. I love your passion for it. Something that Brit, to brag on Brit, something that she says
Brag all the way. Let's go.
is like, choose your hard. You know, and it's like, okay, because entrepreneurship isn't easy. So I can go work for myself and now I'm my own boss, my own hours, but then I got to deal with all the complaints and the inventory, you know, and all the hardships that entrepreneurship brings.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go freaking crush it and choose your hard at your 9 to 5 or your server job. And that's not easy. And that makes money too,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's kind of like, there is no like, let me just get this one thing and that's really easy and everything's passive income. And,
Right.
you know, so that's just so unrealistic. Like, and once again, even if that does happen, the person has not built sustainable habits that are healthy.
It's the lottery
You know,
equation.
and so it's inevitable.
yeah.
Things are going to fall apart. You know, I mean, exactly the lottery, like, you know, or Dave Ramsey talks about like the broke person, and when they finally get rich, they're still doing the same stuff that they were before, acting broke, just spending way more money because their mindset and their behaviors were never changed because they never had discipline in the first place.
There's an economic theory out there called the distribution of wealth theory, where it's like if you took every dollar in the world and you were equally distribute it to every person in the world, within 2 years, it's going to be all back in the same hands as they are today. It's just inevitable because the same people who are buying dumb crap are going to buy dumb crap, and the same people who are investing are going to be investing. It doesn't matter about the dollars. It's about the mindset and the habits that you already touched on that really changes things.
So good.
I'm so curious. I'm going to ask you both. What was the worst real estate that you did in a condensed manner? And then I'm going to ask you, what was the worst product you tried?
Oh, man. I had this guy who, this was going to be $1 million listing. And
Good commissions with a $1 million listing.
up in Clarksville, yeah, you know, average percent is 3%. So that's a lot for one deal. And I thought, oh, this is going to be awesome. And turns out he was like this guy from Nigeria. He was like one of those Nigerian prince emails.
Yeah.
But like the guy in real life is this. And he's like a doctor. But then there was like some sketchy stuff that he was like selling. And I went to the house and he wouldn't let me take photos of like the main bedroom. And there were like prescription pills over there. And I was like, wait, are you like, you know, not a drug dealer, but like what, you know, and turns out he had like months later, like, like a actual federal raid to come in. And he had like all these warrants. It's like the craziest situation. And I'm like, whoa, like, praise God that deal didn't work out. You know, that's why you don't chase like the dollars. You know, you want to serve people and help them regardless of the money and the outcome. You trust the results will take care of themselves. But that was the craziest, probably the craziest one that I got saved from. And now the house is in foreclosure. And I met a guy, that listing agent, who's now like selling it from the bank. But the house was just like, there was basically just like tons of stuff and contraband, and also just like, it was just crazy. It was like a crazy situation and like hidden. And then also like, don't even get me started with some part of the house that looked really cool.
Yeah.
And then you peel it back and like, oh, there's like horrible mold that's been, you know, that's a leak that's been there and they've been hiding that for years or something. So, but that was probably like the most unique situation.
No dull moments in real estate.
I remember.
Yeah.
Now, is there a product that stands out, that's something that you tried or heard of or were about to try that was just ridiculous?
Yes, many. Well, I have two answers to this.
Many. Oh,
Man,
goodness.
can I predict them?
I don't know.
Is it the mask one?
No, that one was funny.
Okay.
There was like an LED mask that was supposed to help your skin, like anti-aging for your skin.
Did it?
But it looks terrifying.
Oh.
Okay?
You know, it looks like the Jason X or like,
okay. So I was like
Mike
walking
Myers
around
mask.
with this and jump scare Logan. He's like,
Oh, that's
"Oh."
amazing.
Yeah, so there was one
He's
of
like,
those.
it's gonna sell though. You know, it's trending on
That
TikTok.
was
I'm like, what?
That was a bust. And then there was actually this one, this is so stupid, but you wouldn't believe the craziest
Hey, if
little
people
trinkets
buy
and
it,
this
like
things that people buy.
fidget
But
spinners.
yeah, exactly. I mean, someone's a millionaire right now
Oh,
because of fidget spinners. But there was this shark suit, like this shark
Okay,
onesie.
you got me hooked. I'm obsessed with sharks. So
I think we still
We have a
have
number one
it.
buyer over
We
here.
actually have 2 of them because we did some videos together in our shark suit.
Oh man. The funniest part was
That was
we recorded a video. It was during Shark Week.
yes,
And then I made a promo video with our huge TV of sharks in the background playing shark music and Brit's
and
just
I'm
like
in a shark
dancing in a
suit
shark suit.
dancing.
this may or may not make the edit, but I have 2 shark onesies.
Yes. Okay.
You can
So,
have ours.
you were
'cause
one of the
we
suckers
don't
that
use
bought
them
it.
anymore.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's like,
they were given to me.
oh my gosh, that's even better. Yeah, the
2 different people, 2 different times because of my love for the shark animal.
Man.
sharks are awesome, but the shark snuggies were not successful
Okay,
for us.
shark
but
snuggies.
Someone
Those
became
2
a
stand out.
millionaire, just not us.
Yeah, not us.
Just selling to the people that thought they could resell them.
I know.
Basically.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. You've told me how you got started. You've told me how much effort it took to get started. Oh, and now
Yes.
a picture is being shared
Yes.
of me in a shark onesie.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's actually the exact one that I
Oh,
had.
really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
He's not lying.
Yeah, so my friend was the
It's
sucker who
hilarious.
helped promote your business.
We appreciate it.
But we've talked about how much effort it's taken to get to where you're at. You're 4 years in, you're 1 year in. What now? Like, where are you guys going as an individual business or as a couple? Like, what is your differentiating factor, or what's the goal? What's the dream of, like, where is Logan and Brit in 5 years from now in regards to their businesses, or as a collective, their business?
In my real estate journey, I was like, this is, awesome, but it can be lonely at times. And I found myself like somewhat depressed, even though I'm helping clients out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, I don't really have any consistency as much as I would like. Because it is very difficult. Like it's all on you. And so like I need, that discipline and consistency. And that's like something I'm growing in. So I was like, I really kind of feel like I need some consistency into a lot of areas. What can help with that? Well, if I hired on someone or got a coach or a mentor to help. And
Right.
so I hired this guy, and I was also, once again, lonely. So I was like, I kind of need some connection. If I have consistent connection, that can help me with just like not being so depressed and like being more motivated. And like, I love helping people out and what I'm doing and where I'm going. But sometimes I don't really know where I'm going. I
Right.
don't have clarity.
Mm-hmm.
So the 3 C's of consistency, clarity, and connection basically became the framework for my business,
Okay.
which is kind of crazy because that just felt like the Lord gave me a vision for that. And I was like, that is what I need. But I didn't really realize it until halfway through. This guy that was coaching me helped me kind of realize that. And I was like, dude, like, let's keep meeting. And eventually he came on to be the director of operations. His name's Jared
Oh,
Dixon.
wow.
And
that's
so,
cool.
and now those 3 C's are the pillars of my business. And so I hired a virtual assistant at the beginning of this year, and then brought on a real estate agent a month and a half ago, and then another one a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So now when we changed the team name from just me and Logan Ray Real Estate to the Pro 25 Group,
Ooh,
which is cool, based off of Proverbs 20 verse 5,
there we go.
says a man's purpose is like deep water, but a man of understanding will help draw it out. So it's like, how can we help draw out our client's purpose with moving, with real estate, but
Mhm.
even beyond that with, ultimately life, where your identity is, and even helping our clients invest in real estate to become financially free or build wealth. The 3 C's came out of a time of hardship and navigating, like, where am I going? Like, do I really want to keep doing real estate for the next 20 plus years?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. And I'll have to go into this in depth later, but like I basically had this vision for creating a network of aligned entrepreneurs that were like kingdom based, but also growth oriented.
Right.
And this word of kingdom based, AKA thinking about the legacy, thinking about your future,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about something beyond just the next, even just the next generation, like even beyond that. In Proverbs, it says, a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children and beyond. And so it's like, how can we think beyond that? And so that's where the legacy word came about. And so this like legacy growth, those two words kind of formed. So I'm trying to create a network in the future where people and other entrepreneurs, other businesses who are legacy growth oriented,
Yeah.
can basically refer one another. So that's like one idea. And as far as where I'm going, like in the next 3 to 5 years, it would be growing my team, basically turning that into maybe different areas throughout the state or throughout the country, because my brokerage, Simply Home, has offices all over.
I gotcha.
And so we would be hiring agents underneath with these similar principles, and launching a YouTube channel, getting leads that way, and also helping people and kind of leaning more into like consulting, coaching, education. And eventually the long-term goal, one of them would be to where these businesses are making enough money and sustaining themselves to where I could sell them, or a lot of the money that goes from there doesn't just provide for us, but like is able to actually fund ministries or help other people in
Right.
need. And also for ourselves, like I could even jump into, maybe doing ministry full time, and I have all the businesses sustaining that.
Okay.
So I feel God's led me to be very focused on building businesses
Yeah.
and pouring into people and helping with real estate. But I have a heart for ministry and helping people,
Come
and
on.
more so a heart for just seeing people live out their purpose and their ultimate identity in Christ.
I
And
love
that's
it.
the most fulfilling thing. And so right now I'm in a season of doing that with my business, but that's kind of some long-term vision is, seeing the team grow, have the opportunity to potentially sell it in real estate. Maybe I'm just continuing an agent. Maybe I'm more so coaching, helping other agents.
Yeah.
But for now, the next 3 to 5 years, grow this team, grow the YouTube channel, and basically build a brand that then can be sustainable and run itself without Logan Ray behind it.
Right. Giving the grind every single
Mhm.
day.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And that's one of our goals together too. Like in, 5, 10 years, I just think it would be awesome to have, I think we already have some LLC named, not actually formed, but we have, this is funny. We have a list of like 10 different LLCs that one day will be created based on all these future businesses that don't exist yet.
Yep.
And one of them is like a joint business consulting LLC. I don't remember what the name of
A
it
day of small
is.
beginnings,
Oh, Day of Small Beginnings.
based off of the scripture that says, "Don't despise the day of small beginnings."
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome. Some couples dream of their, vacations and dog names and stuff like that, and you're doing LLC names. That's awesome.
That was when God woke me up in like March of 2022 or 2023, gave me like this vision for like all these different businesses and ideas and stuff. And I'm just like a creative person in general, but I usually don't wake up at like 5 a.m. and I couldn't go back to sleep. And I started writing down legacy growth podcasts, momentum, merchandise, like, Day of Small Beginnings, all these names and cool things started to form. And I was like, whoa, is that really even possible? And like, that's like a serial entrepreneur. I just have my real estate stuff.
Yeah.
But so the vision's still there. The dream is still there. And like, that would be like a lot of those things could totally happen, but we got to be faithful and steward what we have been given.
Yeah.
And not be so distracted by all the future shiny objects and all these cool big dreams that you aren't stewarding what God's given you today.
Yeah. So for the podcast listeners who don't know this, we have been renovating our garage. We have a really big garage space.
And it's beautiful.
And we
Thank you.
are, we just installed like a kitchen and bathroom and spare bedroom, kind of like an in-law suite, but we're also building out a content studio, which we're very excited about, and photography, lighting space for day rentals and for content creators. We're going to put a podcast studio down there eventually too. So we have these dreams of helping other people. And this is kind of where our businesses overlap.
Yeah.
Helping other people get started. And that's what I'm really passionate about. So I was, doing e-commerce, and I actually, the first digital product that I launched, because that's the majority of my business now, was how to start selling physical products on TikTok Shop. And for
Okay.
people who don't know, that's basically like Facebook Marketplace kind of, but on TikTok. And
got
it
it.
just recently launched in the last year. There's a lot of confusion on how it works. And so I just took all of my trial and errors that I did last year and put it all into this guide, and that's been one of the best sellers this year. So that whole process has just made me very passionate about helping other people take what they either have a lot of experience in or knowledge or certifications and put that into a digital product that can be monetized, because I know I had this preconception that you have to be an influencer if you make money online. And that never appealed to me. Like I
Right.
don't really want a big platform. I didn't want to be, I don't know, showing my outfits every day. That's kind of what I thought influencers did. And truth of the matter is you don't need a big following to make a consistent income from social media. You just need a problem-solving product.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot. I did a lot of market research to create a product that I knew people would want. And so what I'm so passionate about is I talk to people every day who want to make money online. They want to stay home. And that's one of the big goals for me, and why I left my job is because one of our goals is to have a family, and I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom one day. So I knew that was going to take some time to
Yeah.
build a business that could support that. Because I'm sure that takes a lot of time. So like, man, I don't want to be building in the building stages and, starting a family. So maybe I can get this business off the ground first.
Right.
So anyway, I just talked to so many people who are like, I want to do something like what you do. And I've also since released other digital products that help people put their knowledge into something that is sellable
Very
online.
cool.
It's like, hey, you actually don't need a lot of prior experience. You don't need a big following. You don't have to be an influencer. You don't have to do brand deals and basically have a boss.
Right.
You can create your own thing and be very successful. And so that's really what I'm passionate about, is giving people that confidence and kind of roadmap to making money online and just putting what is already kind of their wheelhouse. I mean, I've bought digital products about, oh my gosh, making sourdough starter and
Okay.
workout plans and homeschooling, sleep training. I've seen so many different digital
Yeah.
gardening. I mean, think of the
Solving a
knowledge
Rubik's
out
Cube.
there. I guess I haven't seen that one yet, but I'm sure it
It's out
exists.
there.
Yeah.
And just the power of building a personal brand and then
Mhm.
having something that solves someone's problem is so powerful. I wish that I had that. I actually had a really horrible experience when I first started my e-commerce
No.
journey, and I got essentially scammed. It wasn't like and it was from someone that I knew, which made it
That's horrible.
worse. Yeah, she kind of just basically, I paid a lot of money for a mentorship program, and she kind of just ghosted and like phased out and never really
That
helped
happens in
us.
business too.
A lot of
And that,
lies.
yeah,
And
a lot of, it's a long, crazy story. But anyway, I just wish that I had a mentor in the beginning and someone to really pave the way so I could have maybe got to where I am faster. And I'm really passionate about that. And we need more Christians in the
Amen to
workspace,
that.
in business,
Mhm.
especially females, that
Mhm.
like that's kind of a small group of people that are Christian and female that have businesses. And so I'm still trying to navigate what my place is and all of that, but I've really just helped. I love hearing people dream, and I love
Yeah.
giving people those first steps to get started. And there's so many ministry opportunities with that. I don't do like long-term client packages, but I do like one-on-one coaching. And so I've just kind of seen the seeds and fruits of those divine appointments. And I've
Mhm.
had people pray over me in a coaching call. I'm like, we're supposed to be talking about business, and here we are talking about our favorite Bible verses, and
Right.
just special things like that where I'm like, all right, God, I see you're at work in this. But yeah, I would love to do some business consulting down the line
Mhm.
with Logan, and also use our space to facilitate some of those content creation yeah, just kind of navigate the online world
Yeah.
because it is a scary place with a lot of people misleading other
When your
people.
space is available for rent, we will add that to the
Yeah,
Yes,
let's
so
get it.
it will be
absolutely.
everything will be
Fully Alive
included.
Studios.
Oh
Fully
man,
Life Studios.
Fully Alive
.com.
Studios.
Yes.
I would say too, one last thing on that is like our ultimate like visions or like our ultimate like our goals are very similar. Of like if you think about it, like what she's talking about, helping people.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing.
Yep.
I'm just doing it more so through real estate, but also helping them build wealth. But then she's helping them do a lot of stuff. But really both of us, what we're doing is drawing out what could be.
Right.
And to me, that's really exciting because, you know, people did that for us and what, you know, helped us give us a vision of what could be. And so like, hey, here's paint the picture of what could be. And let me show you and let me guide you there. And, you know, but then like you run the ship and you can do this. And like just believing in people.
Yeah.
Just like people believed in us. And that's really, it gets us really excited. And like, I could see us crossing spaces and working together of maybe doing a podcast or maybe doing our own, you know, LLC.
Just like you are now.
Yeah, exactly. The first one started here. Or doing, you know, the LLC where we Day of Small Beginnings, encouraging entrepreneurs or helping people, giving them advice, encouraging them, keep going, you know, building a brand of just like straight up life-giving, believing in them, and then like advising them the best that we could, but helping draw out what could be.
That's awesome. You know, so what I see is, and I'm going to bring it back from the ethereal to the material, is that what you guys are talking about is, you know, this really cool vision about helping people and working with them and showing them just a better future. Because that's what you guys have stepped into is like, no, we don't want to just do what we've been told is possible. We want to create and explore and imagine and dream and do it with excitement, enthusiasm, and not just do it alone, but we want to bring people along with us and show them that different is possible and that your dream or your passion is you're capable of doing it even in small beginnings and your little work here, you know, if it produces $500 a month, like that matters to so many people. And it's such a great platform to then be able to do another thing and to just share my insight of who you guys are as people is you're not waiting for 5 years or 10 years to start doing this. Like you guys already are. Like Logan, I've known you for many, many years now. It's probably 7 or 8 years at this point.
Yeah.
Where like that is who you were and who you are and from a decade ago. I remember going to your first rental house or the first rental house that I was aware of on Belmont Boulevard. And we had the Friendsgiving. I think I was at number 2 or it was, and you pouring into people and sharing them like, hey, dude, you should try Uber. Hey, dude, you should try this client thing. Hey, dude, you should try this thing because that's just who you are. And likewise, Britt, you're in the same way of like, no, I'm not just going to do this thing is I'm going to do it and share and then do it and pull someone in. And that is just part of your DNA. And just like your entrepreneurial journey didn't start with like, oh, it's a new thought. Like it's been part of the DNA the entire way. And my encouragement is that don't lose that. Don't lose your origin. Don't lose your perfect north that says, no, this is who we are as people. Because, you know, money and clout and just busyness can interrupt that. But what I have seen and observed and experienced is people that are faithful to what they're doing, who do what they say, have integrity, will show faithfulness in their process, but are going to bring you along. Like, I cannot tell you how many times this man has tried to bring me into real estate, and it's still part of the plan. It just hasn't happened yet. But it just shows again to me that it's not just a Logan's journey. It's not just a Brit's journey. It's no, we want to do this, and we so badly want to take people along with us because we care at the core, beyond the businesses, beyond, you know, what our future might look like. We care about people. We care about the kingdom of God, and we care about what is being created in that space. And it's really just cool to hear that story as not just a future goal, but to see it happening today.
Man, thank you, man.
Wow.
That's so cool. I love that. makes me think too, just like to wrap that up, that's how God is with us.
Yeah.
You know, he sees where we could be. He helps draw that out in us. And then he joins us in the adventure.
Yeah.
It's because we're not alone. Emmanuel, God with
That's
us.
so good.
So sliding down to the close, I have a question that I've asked everybody, and it's been so interesting, all the different answers so far. Is like, if you were to have the ability to go tell your beginning self, the 25-year-old, the 20-year-old, that the person who started this journey, with the information and the knowledge and the experience and the failures and the highs and lows that you have now, not just some person out there, but what would you have needed to hear in order to get started on that journey with more confidence or more faith? Or what would you have needed to hear as Brit, as Logan, to get started on this process? What would have been super encouraging or affirming, or really, if you had the opportunity to speak to yourself 5 years ago, 2 years ago, what would that have sounded like?
Invest in Bitcoin.
Right.
Learn what it is. Know it. Understand real estate. No.
Invest in Bitcoin.
What I would tell my younger self, such a good question, because the younger version of me was pretty hopeful, but just you don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
I would have continued to remind myself, hey, like, stay in the game. Don't give up. Just because you can't pass the real estate don't, just because you didn't pass the real estate test right away.
How many times did it take?
It took me about 5 times. On the 6th.
There you go.
Yeah.
You can still be an amazing real estate agent, even if it takes you 5 times.
But that was honestly like a part of my story, was like a guy spoke life into me. He was like, hey, I know you're going to be a good agent because, 5 times failure is 5 times greater success. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, you're not going to take it for granted. You've already shown that you're resilient and you're not going to give up until you get it. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then he's like, all the people that pass right away, they don't know what it's like to fail and keep going and get back up. And in real estate, that's going to happen a lot. And so for them, they might just give up then, but you've already developed a thick skin and been resilient and persevered. And so that's just like, what's new? I already did this with the test. This is nothing. So that was really cool. So I would have reminded myself of that type of statement to keep staying in the game, perseverance, keep going. I would have probably some like business lessons. I would have encouraged myself to like budget and save more for instead of spending all the money on this beautiful woman I was about to start dating. But I would have, I would have loved to be able to, instead of renting, like if I could have found out about real estate earlier on, hey, instead of just renting and throw your money away, like you can actually get in on a property with a really cool first-time home buyer loan where you don't have to have a lot of money down. And then your roommate, you can house hack it. And then your roommates can pay your mortgage. And now you're benefiting from owning a house. Like that would have been really cool. And then probably just another encouragement is I feel like I wish I could have shadowed or ask more questions towards other like entrepreneurs. Sometimes like you kind of limit yourself. I felt like for me, I like would limit myself or doubt myself, or I can't do it, or they're just doing that, or there's no way I could do that, and I was really glad that I tried a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And like figured things out and got to travel and play bass and play a lot of shows. But it would have been cool if I could have like shadowed someone like a version of me, like another guy who's like an entrepreneur and doing this stuff, but really passionate about these other things. So I would tell myself those things though. Don't give up, stay in the game, think about house hacking and see if you can find like a mentor, someone that's doing, like is more of an entrepreneur than just like someone who's just reacting to stuff all the time based off of, the hottest trend or, that's just kind of like going through the motions. It's like, I think that would have been really cool in my early 20s, if I had like, someone who's like 27 years old, who's like an entrepreneur and doing real estate. I don't know. That just would have blown my mind.
Yeah.
Cause I just didn't know about it until like 25.
Yeah.
Like as far as real estate specifically.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we have a lot of similar
Like,
things.
how did we not know about like e-commerce and real estate until like later, which is like, I guess tons of people don't know.
I think it's not just because even if we purchase with it or we interact with it, doesn't mean that we have the light bulb moment that says, wait a minute, someone produced this or someone did the deal. Like, I don't even think that's common. Like, I remember doing this. I don't even know where I picked it up, of just like even sitting at a baseball stadium and like looking at the guy who's sitting, picking up the baseballs and just going through the imaginative experience of like, I wonder what he did to get that job, and just begin to like hypothesize, like somebody is the CEO of Netflix.
Right.
How do you get that job? What was his career? What was his like?
Right.
It's all humanly attainable. We just need to imagine that process, and you can just backwork it.
Yeah, totally.
That's so good.
What would you say to your younger self, Britt?
I would say, find someone that believes in you, and then find a good mentor and have those be two separate people.
Okay.
I think Logan really helped me jump off the ledge and just dive in to just accepting and just admitting that I wanted to be a business owner, because that's kind of scary to like
Just
say out loud. No, really. When we were dating, we have a little, this is all Logan. He started us like a little dream journal. And so we would like write some of our dreams, and we still, I know, and we still write it to this day. And it's really awesome to go back and see our kind of prayer requests /
the
dreams.
dream journals are basically just like prayers almost to God.
But yeah, when we first started dating, I had a dream, and that was the first time I wrote down like, I want to be an entrepreneur, and I put it down onto paper. I said, I want to start my own business before I turned 30. And that just became so real, because I had someone that believed in me. Not that, I mean, I'm sure my family would have supported me too, but I didn't even really believe in myself enough to verbalize that dream to anyone, really. So just having someone in your corner that truly does believe that you can do it, I think is very, very important. And then having a mentor, someone that's a few steps ahead of you that can look at what you're doing and help course correct. Like, don't be afraid to invest in yourself. It's not the S&P 500, it's the S&Me 500.
Ooh.
I also learned that from Alex Hormozy. and just see it as like you're investing in your education. You're a lifelong learner. And, don't be afraid to fail, and just see it. I kind of, don't take yourself too seriously. So what if you're dancing around in a shark suit and it doesn't work?
It's
Like
fun.
You're learning, you are learning. And so I just took everything so seriously in the beginning. And now I see it as kind of a video game, and it's almost amusing if I quote unquote die and have to, start over. I'm like, hey, how do I beat this boss? How do I get to the next level? And I have more playfulness and curiosity, and I'm not so hard on myself, because I understand now how failure is just it's a building block of the success. You can't have one without the other, really, at all. So I would tell myself that. And then last thing would just be execute quickly.
Okay.
I think as a business owner, especially when you're running your own business and you're the only one making the decisions, you can kind of avoid making certain decisions or putting out certain things, or like, oh, I know I need to, start that podcast or do that thing.
Right.
And then it just takes you forever to do it. And when really, if you had just done it and then learned from that, you would be so much further now. And so thinking about those decisions, don't be afraid to execute quickly, fail quickly, and just learn fast, because the people that are making big moves are just executing faster than the average person.
Right.
So that's kind of what I would, and just have faith too. Like, trust that God is
I need to
putting
hear all this now.
Yeah, have faith that God is putting these dreams on your heart. Like, don't ignore them.
Trust what you're hearing.
Yeah, because there's nowhere in the Bible that it says you have to start a business, but it is pretty clear that we're to make disciples and use our talents to bless others.
Right.
And so there's a lot of freedom in that. And if you're really feeling pulled towards something and you're feeling curious or passionate about something, just, don't ignore it. Don't let the childlike wonder, leave.
Yeah, I think a lot of times God places that there,
Yes.
and he can draw that out of you, and also, pay attention to it. And yeah, you don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, because that's what the world needs, is more people who have fully come alive. And
Everybody gets what they need. Like the economy, the business, everything will flourish. Like
Yeah.
get what you need.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think that your 50-year-old self would tell you?
Oh man,
Like-
I've never thought of this question.
Thinking forward back, but like you just went from present back. What do you think that person would tell you?
I hope that they would say, "Well done, younger version of me."
I hope I don't sound like that.
Oh, I thought he said, 50. Oh, they said 50 years.
Only 18 years from now.
Oh, shoot. 18 years from now. Dang. I mean, I've done an exercise where you envision yourself like, I think 10 years with my buddy Stu. And that was really cool. But so I would lean in on some of that stuff. Like, sorry, I guess like that's more of like where I'd want to be, or like the life I'm living then. And then like making the decisions now to be aligned with that. But I guess if the question is the question more of like, what's the advice, or is it just what would the 50-year-old version of Logan tell myself right now?
Take it however you want.
Okay. I feel like the 50-year-old version would probably say, enjoy the journey. Don't be so focused on the destination. And God's got you.
Yep.
You don't have to be so worried about providing and, making, like you can take the pressure off, just breathe, slow down, rest. The relationships and the people that you're with, those things matter. The numbers and all the other stuff will come. And, continue to stick to your boundaries. Like I'm not going to look back on my life and be like, man, I wish I could have done all these other things, but I wish I would have invested more of people, in other people and experiences and things like that, versus like achieving all this stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's probably what the 50-year-old version would say. And probably too, just like, life goes by so fast, I guess like it's just slow down,
Yeah.
That's really good.
I've put myself through this exercise quite a few different times where I'm trying to think, because I think it's easy to set goals for the future. I'm very well versed or trained in that. And even going back to, what would have need to hear at 18 to then make this decision to that decision. But then thinking like forward back, where like, what do you think 50-year-old Jonathan would say to present 30-year-old Jonathan? And, honestly, I think some of those key points that like penetrate the heart are things like, everything that you're worrying about today, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
So focus on the important stuff,
Right.
not on the inconsequential stuff. Not the day-to-day stuff doesn't matter, but what I pour my life into and what I actually spend my life on, do it for the things that matter and the things that 50-year-old self is going to remember, not just the inconsequential. Don't sacrifice your body, your soul, your mind, your heart for things that aren't even remembered in 10 years.
Yeah.
And
Really good.
that just like hits me. I'm going like, oh man, I can think back to 25-year-old self and be like, dude, I write myself letters every year that get emailed to me digitally. It's a website called futureme.com.
Oh,
And
sweet.
Oh,
That's a good
cool.
idea.
I do it every, 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years. So I get emails from my past self every year. And when I turned 30, I got an email from my 20-year-old self. And I
Time
have
travel?
and I have a formula of how I go through this of this is what's important. This is what's happening. These are the questions that you're asking of yourself and God. This is how much you're worth. And this is what you plan on and what you think the future is going to look like. It's a very, simple formula. And I can tell you that everything in that 10-year-old letter and 5-year-old letter doesn't matter at all today.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
It's crazy if you think about it that way. It's like, man, these big worries or big things you're thinking of, and it's like, actually, my life's way different. Like, our lives are way different better than we could have ever imagined.
And what I thought was going to embarrass me the most and my biggest fear, I didn't even remember that happened. And so the emphasis around fear or roadblocks or things that I'm not willing to do because of this, and this is like, you know what? I survived, I got through it, and I was able to do it again. Just start now. Don't let that continue to be a roadblock in your life. Grow beyond that to where, no, I can perspective my life and say, this business decision, this personal decision, this heart decision, it's not the end. I'm going to figure it out. It's going to be okay. Just take the next step and see what's before see what comes after that.
Totally. Yep. Just take the next right step.
Yeah, you phrased that so well. I had bits of that floating around in my head, and I feel like you just put that together so eloquently.
Well, thank you.
I'm thinking about being 50 years old. I think one of our shared values, something that Logan and I talk about a lot, is legacy and the idea of what we want to leave behind, and not just financial legacy. That's part of what our businesses are building, but impact, eternal impact, and relationships. What do we really have when this is all gone?
Right.
The impact that we had on relationships and our relationship with God. And that's kind of it. What do we want to be known for when we're gone? And not that 50 is all that old, but I do think
it's not. Sometimes it feels that way.
But I think that's going to be in the forefront of my mind more than it is right now at 30. And I think 50-year-old me is going to look back and be proud of the risks that I'm taking now.
Come on.
And be like, you're always telling your kids to follow their dreams and go for it. And you led by example, and you are actually doing that.
Yeah.
I feel like they'd be like, I'm proud of you.
Come on.
Because I look back at some of the risks that I have taken, in my 20s, or even just starting a business. And I'm like, man, I was so ignorant. But I'm glad I did it, because if I know everything I know now, would I have done, made the same risks? I don't know. So I think 50-year-old me is going to be proud that I'm taking all of the risks and scary things now. And I also think they're going to be like, you're on your way to building a legacy. And also, stop worrying about all those little things that I don't even remember now. Just like what you were saying, God's got this. He's providing. And I think that's just going to be even more evident 20 more years of life, trusting God. And I'm like, whoa, he was really weaving the story together this whole time.
Yeah. He's the master artist. One other last thought was, I would like to be able to say to my younger version, like, thank you, well done, like, awesome job leading your family, leading your wife, leading your business, making disciples, and just like some of the things that really matter. I think of this phrase of like investing versus spending. Like, hey, you spent your 20s and 30s and 40s, and now there's nothing really to show for it. Or, hey, thank you for investing into the kingdom of God, into lives around you, into your businesses, into your mindset, to your health. Like, thank you for working out, because now I'm healthy. Like, even like, but seriously,
right.
like in your 50s, like, it's not like it's uphill or downhill, whatever the phrase would be. It's
So just, not that any of our 50-year-old listeners are old, or if you're beyond that, like, don't just turn us off here. There's a lot to be had here.
But let's just say, the best shape of your life is probably not around the corner. And what you've built, now in the 20s, for me, in the 20s and 30s and 40s, will hopefully be really sustainable and healthy for 50s and beyond.
Yeah.
So
you guys have
great question, man.
Quite a journey from starting in music industry, coming to Nashville, following the dream, music business.
Both starting in music.
Oh my
I know.
goodness. You've done bands, you've done Topgolf and Uber, and you've done consulting and marketing, and now we've gone through e-commerce and digital marketing, and we've done real estate and investment, and there's a lot to look forward to in the future.
Definitely.
And it's been super exciting to have the conversation. And
yes,
I want to just give you the moment to plug what you got going on. Where can people find you? What's going on? And Brit, and Logan's world and websites, contacts, like if people want to get involved with what you guys are doing, your vision, your passion, your future, where can they find you?
They can find me at Logan at pro25.com, pro20five.com. That's the website, and then that's my email.
Come on.
Or just at Logan Ray on Instagram. That's my main, probably, content creation platform. So LOGANRHEA. And then, yeah, for real estate, like if you want to learn how to invest in real estate to achieve financial freedom or build wealth, that's something I'm super passionate about. Or if you just need to buy or sell a house, or if you want to understand what it means to have a relationship with God and walk in your identity and actually have the ultimate secret to life, which is knowing who you are in Christ and walking in the power of who God has called you to be, hit me up.
Find this man. I have purchased a couple of houses through him, and I have sent all of my friends his way.
Yes.
Hopefully some of them have actually turned into deals. But
they've been a very, very much thank you for that. And it's been an honor to serve your friends and family, man.
I have also purchased a house from this man that he now lives in.
Yes, the coolest house I've ever sold.
So I can also vouch for him as an amazing realtor.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All the shout outs.
So I'm on Instagram. If you want to learn more about like digital marketing, I'm on Instagram and TikTok. Digitally Brit is the username. And then if you're interested in women's self-defense keychains and accessories, then shop at happydripcoshop.com.
All right, we'll have all those links in the description.
Yeah.
Get you connected with these people. If you have e-commerce questions, if you have real estate questions, you have digital marketing, online courses, if you just want a really fun, awesome couple to hang out with in Nashville, these are your people.
Yeah.
These are absolutely your people. Guys,
we're honored, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on the show today. It's been a fantastic conversation, and I'm excited to watch your journey. To see what the next 5, 10, 15, and 20 years
just enjoying it, man.
And we'll see if this podcast is around in 20 years. If
have us back when we're 50.
See what we'll be telling our younger selves.
Like, man, I should have gone in better shape. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
All right. Peace.